And when I say textbooks, I mean every single text in a textbook. Now, you may think it's impossible. It is actually possible. It's just that it takes a lot of time, of course. There's other methods to memorize textbooks. For example, Anthony Medavere is a memory tutor who came up with the concept of textbook memorization, but other people kind of developed a more comprehensive or more detailed way of memorizing textbooks. So basically, let me talk to you about the old textbook method. So the old textbook memorization method that Anthony Metazier mentioned was that basically you use an index card, right? And in that one index card, you basically summarize a chapter of the textbook, and you do this for every chapter, and you kind of like rank up points as you do that. And so realistically, this can actually work for textbook only if you want to only get the gist of what each chapter signifies. So that's good for many of the high school or undergraduate courses, but in places like medical school or other graduate schools, you're going to need to know the detail of the whole textbook, word by word. And for example, my buddy Hutska is the guy who developed this specific memory technique, where basically when you go on to the textbook, right, you're going to then read the textbook first, right? You're going to read that page first. And after you read that page, you have to form some form of understanding. And of course, you can understand that page, but to retain that information, it's going to be tough. And that's where this method comes in. The Hutska method is basically you trying to first understand the whole text in that page, and then word by word, you're basically typing the whole textbook, typing the whole page into the Anki card. After you do that, you have to make sure you find a memory palace that you can associate those words with. So in the memory palaces, you're probably going to have maybe around 15 sections per memory palaces, and you can chain those memory palaces to each other. So that means you can have an unlimited amount of sections, okay? It's just that the amount of information in the textbook page may be a lot. So what can you do? Well, you're going to be making incongruent associations with each of those words, okay? And as you do that, you develop a lot of associations, develop a lot of strong connections with each word that is associated with the text. And so after you, for example, look at one sentence, you look at the first letter of each word, you're going to make the acronym for those words, right? So for example, a sentence have 5 words, so you're going to have an acronym of 5 letters, right? The acronym for the first letter of each word. After you do that, you basically keep doing that for every sentence in the whole textbook. And so you have a compilation of acronyms. Now you're going to think, why is there a lot? And how can I remember this? Well, through those acronyms, it doesn't have to be exactly the words that you need to know. You can make associations that are incongruent, that is so surprisingly exaggerated that you can remember it. You don't have to use index cards, you just use Anki. Anki is a spaced repetition program where you can just put all the information in, make associations, get a memory palace, do a memory journey if you want. Make sure you can probably put to use the PEG system or even the major system. As you develop your memory techniques, you can then do this with some form of speed. You can probably do this faster than some others if you use memory palaces for quite some time. But I'm saying that this is doable. There's medical students that actually, there's a medical student that does this. And the amount of information that I've seen in his Anki card is a lot. But basically, he's telling me that he's advocating that you can memorize word by word in a textbook page, and you can do the same thing for every page. Sure, it's going to take some time, but in the long run, in the long-term memory, you're going to remember this when you're actually a practicing physician or a practicing PhD, where you can recite anything you want based on all of these incongruent associations. This can work out, and I must say it's pretty impressive. You use acronyms. All right, first you understand the material. You get your memory palaces. You get associations with the textbook words. You make associations with the words. You get the acronyms. You make associations with the acronyms. And then after you make all of those associations with each word, you're going to recite slowly. But as you recite, remember that you're able to recite backwards as well. And also you should be able to go straight into the middle of the memory palace, pick a random place, and follow that linear sequence forward and backwards. So you should be able to use a middle in the middle of the linear sequence going forward and going backward, and from the beginning going forward, and then at the end going backwards. This basically sums up how you can remember each of the text in a textbook. And so this method should be used for textbooks that you really, really need to know about. For example, an anatomy textbook. An anatomy textbook, you should probably understand everything in there, especially if you're going to be a practicing physician in the future. I don't know about other professions, but I know for sure that, in medicine you have to, really retain a lot of information. It feels like a fire hydrant, drinking a fire hydrant, right? Drinking water from a fire hydrant, sorry. And so, is there anything else? When you put the words into the Anki card, Hutska usually just count it as Memory Palace 1, Memory Palace 2. I'm not so sure if that's a good idea. Maybe you can make another association with each page. You know what I mean? Just like how when you imagine yourself going to a library and you're picking up a book, that certain book has a specific amount of information. You could probably do something like that for Anki. But otherwise, I think this is a really good method. So for those of you who are, studying extensively in the textbook and need to memorize everything, this is the way to go. I don't think there's any other method that really does anything like this.